Thomas Live on the Reach Show. We're just kicking it and catching up on his. He has two lives. He's living like a double life. He's a producer and he's a dope artist. So dipping into the artistry, coming from behind, the keyboard and in front of the microphone. What was it the weirdest part or the best part of that transition for you?
Well, the first major milestone was one of the very first songs that I was singing on, was the one with Snoop Dogg.
Okay, so just come out the gates and hit a grand slam.
Basically, yeah, and again, it was just me and Minnesota Fats working really hard because I was like his main producer at that time. And then I was starting to get into like my singing thing. And
Yeah.
I was the dream at the time was like when I first started singing. He's
Yeah.
one of the guys who really inspired me to just go for it because I just loved his sound.
Yeah, him and Neo kind of have a similar
Yeah.
situation where they're writing for everybody and like producing and being on the,
Oh, yeah.
and then you end up keeping your vocals on a record.
Yeah. And it ended up working out, and originally we were trying to replace my vocals,
Mm,
and I was just going to be writer.
yeah,
And we had this guy named John Blue, I think, tried to jump on it, and it was cool,
yeah,
but we ended up just staying with mine.
right.
And that was just a huge, like, to me, that it's still like a bucket list moment.
I mean, who wouldn't have Snoop Dogg on the buck? One of the greatest rappers of all time, one of the greatest artists of an era, and still is relevant to this day. That's
Yeah,
got
absolute legend. I don't even think that's up for debate.
right, right. So your vocals end up sticking on a record with Snoop Dogg,
Mhm.
and then you're like, yeah, I can do this. I can go ahead. Let me go ahead and drop an album or 10.
Yeah, right.
That's what's up, man. So I know as being on the production, you having the studio, the pandemic hits. What is artistry like for you during a pandemic with you working on both sides of the fence?
Oh, geez, it's quite the roller coaster. Because last year, I dropped a song called "Sugar Baby." You
Yeah.
you alluded to it earlier.
Mhm.
Um, and it started doing okay. They started playing it on the radio here locally,
Mhm.
and I was very excited. I was like, "Oh, I got one again." It's that same
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster, right? And it was starting to do really good, and I was like really excited. And it was hit like 700 some thousand views, which for me at the time was huge.
Yeah,
I was
let
like,
me hit the hype bell for that. That is huge. 700,000 views any day is huge. Right.
yeah, I was ecstatic about it. And then like they played it on the radio here for like 6 weeks, like straight up. I was like super excited. But then COVID hit and it shut everything down. I had shows booked. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna start headlining. It's gonna start really working out for me.
Uh-huh.
And then COVID hit and it shut that whole thing down. And it was like devastating actually, because I'm like, my one chance, it felt like, was completely squandered.
Man,
Um,
that's crazy. I can imagine because for artists, I know most artists, you make your money on the road. Like you can get your mailbox money with your production and your licenses and stuff like that and your properties. But when you're on the road, it's nothing like you get the feel of the crowd, you get the energy from them. People are rocking with certain songs and you can kind of
right.
gear towards where you're gonna go, and you can't do any of that. So did you turn to social at all?